Okay, everybody. I can only do 15-minute blocks. Anyway, OMG, what a lot of data. And speaking of storage, data storage is referred to as the cloud, which I think is some brilliant bit of marketing because it just makes it sound like it's living up in the heavens somewhere. You know, you can just kind of beam up to it, and when you want it, it'll beam down to you magically. And since it's the heavens, there's a lot of space for it. It must be. We've got enough satellites up there. There must be room for a lot of data up there. But actually, that's what the cloud really looks like. It's a data storage warehouse. There are many of these all over the world. People normally like to have their data close to where they do business and where the website is housed. And so, you know, these are in places with cheap land costs and cheap labor costs, and there's as little labor as possible. But they do have to do some setting up of the platform that all these data go into. They're not just put on one big server. The data are segmented in many ways, you know, based on the specific website's needs. So for Facebook, there are going to be photos and different things people store that never really get looked at or brought up again. Okay, so that sort of quiet data is stored in the coldest, cheapest, no electricity to speak of, just the minimum place. Okay, and where nobody needs to have fast access to it. And then there are different levels and different grades of data based on how much it's used and how fast the customers need to access it, the users of the website need to access it. So there's a whole very fruitful area of job opportunity, by the way, in setting up data storage and making it work successfully. Again, Amazon is a huge expert in this, and Amazon Web Services, through that division of their company, they provide data storage for many, many, many very, very big and many small websites, and it's the most profitable part of their company. I think it contributes about 40% of their profit. And then when you have a database that you're storing, you do need to maintain it. Here I'm talking more about a customer database now. Because the only thing we can count on in life is change, right? Everybody, look at the world around us and all the change we're in the midst of now. People pass away, people move, people get married, people have kids, people change their names, who knows. But the point is that if you're running a company with a database, you need to make sure that it's regularly updated, and people who are not there anymore, bounce backs, etc., from your emails are deleted. You need to comb through the database to make sure you don't have duplicate records. I mean, as I think I may have said, I have about 6 I Love My Library stickers up on my refrigerator, all mailed out in the same year. So clearly I'm listed in the different libraries' databases, I would guess, and they never really put them together. So each local library where I've used to live is sending me out one of these I Love My Library sticker, and I do love my library, and that's why I put them all up. But you need to merge, purge the data, and get rid of duplicates, etc. And you use key codes to do that. You assign some numerical values to different parts of the customer record, and then based on that you can compare numbers, and you can find records that are really close, and you can see whether it's really the same person, and then get rid of one of them. Security, of course, is another huge issue with databases. Oh my gosh, huge. Privacy, and of course, and then security. The fact that there are so many players now all over the world, many out of this country, in fact, many in Eastern Europe, but other parts of the world, Russia, who are very good at hacking into databases, hacking into emails, information of different companies. A big crime these days is ransomware. In fact, my doctor, my personal doctor, a couple of years ago, shares an office with 2 other physicians, and their office of 3 doctors, a hacker, got into their patient database. So all the records and checkups, and health and weight, blood tests, and everything else for all of 3 doctors' patients, hundreds of records, were stolen and encrypted, and they couldn't get them back unless they paid, I forget how much, $100,000, I think it was. They didn't want to pay. They called the FBI. I don't know if anyone was ever found. My guess is probably not. It's hard to track because these guys go through different computers and route things, and it's very hard to trace it back. They had to build a whole new database. So it's happening with these few little doctors. It's happening with cities, universities, businesses, just all kinds of issues with the fact that our data are electronic and digital is wonderful, but it's also dangerous, because if it's electronic and you're inputting into a database, there's always somebody else who can get in somehow. If you're getting in, they can find their own way in. We talked about relational databases versus hierarchical databases or flat databases. A flat database is kind of an old-fashioned way of doing things. It's like a big Excel sheet where you put all the information in one big sheet with a lot of columns and rows defining different values. And then to hold all the data, you end up having to have an Excel sheet, that goes to Omaha, Nebraska, And as a matter of fact, since not every one in a row has whatever characteristic or trait is in an individual column as you go across and go to Omaha, you're going to find lots of blank cells, empty boxes in this type of database. And it's very inefficient. It wastes storage space because even a blank box has to be stored. It also wastes computational timing because it takes longer to pull the information from a big clunky thing like this. So relational databases were developed, and this is an example of one where one big bank database was divided into 5 separate databases in this example. It means that each separate one of these baby databases can be very concise. They won't have a lot of blank boxes. And so less storage space is used. And then because these databases are linked, you can pull information from all of them at the same time with one query because they're linked together and they're made to, go together so that when a query is done, everything will be consulted. So relational database, smaller baby databases, but they're joined together by different fields of information. That's the basic database setup. This is a relational database. The operational database is number 1 over there. That handles all the transactions, the sales, and the credit card paying, and the shipping, and the warehouse, etc. with the shipping. Database number 2 is really the marketing database. It's an information database. This is where deeper information about each customer is stored and analyzed. This is where you're going to add data, appended data, from say an Axiom to find out more about your MVCs. This is the place where you're going to find out if you can build a profile of the type of customer who won't renew, okay, and then develop a communications program or some offers for them. So that's really the heart right there, the marketing database. The transactional, operational information goes in, stirred around the marketing database, and improved, and information's added, and then smarter and smarter communications go out the bottom. Relational database. We talked about customer lifetime value. Smart marketers don't just look at the first transaction as the end of the story. It should be the beginning of the story for the customer. Particularly if we're smart direct marketers and we know that the type of prospects we want are going to match the profile of our most valuable customers. That means we can model them. We can model their behavior. And based on their profile and based on what they've already bought with us or their first purchase and what they responded to, we have an idea of how many purchases they're going to make over their lifetime. So we evaluate each customer based on not just one transaction, but on a series of transactions over some time. The calculation for lifetime value is profit per transaction, average profit per transaction, which is selling price minus cost of goods sold. That's the profit. And then how many times do they buy per year, based on how we modeled them. And then times 3 years to be conservative. And we discount by the net present value the future years. So years 2 and 3, in the future, we're going to make X amount each year, but we want to know how much all that is worth today. How much is this customer worth right now? And so we have to discount years 2 and 3, take the net present value, and that's how we come up with LTV. Segmentation, very, very important concept in database marketing, because the database isn't just one big herd of cows. It's segmented into this kind of cow and that kind of cow. Milk cows, dairy cows, and beef cows. Although most people don't raise both, by the way, from what I know. And I have some relatives who farm, really have cows. They're more into hogs, but anyway. I tried to come up with a visual that would kind of dramatically make the point of segmentation that maybe would kind of stick with you guys. And so this Angus here, giving us a calm but also potentially threatening look from the field, when a butcher gets hold of him, can turn into something like that. The butcher segments the beef cow into different cuts of meat. Okay, different cuts of meat have different texture, different tastiness. Some cost a lot more than others. You know, a flank steak does not cost as much as a ribeye steak, 1.5 inch thick, bone in, prime, well marbled. Right, so we segment. We create value by dividing up the beef cow into different alike entities called segments. And boy, we're not even done with just the meat, right? With the cow, we kind of get something out of every part of the poor guy. You know, like leather, for instance, for the Birkin bag. Segmentation. This is a very simple, I like this very clear chart about how we segment a customer database where everyone's all together in the big crowd, and now we want to figure out similarities between groups of people and pull them out and make them separate addressable segments. Most companies don't want to market to more than 9 or 10 segments, because you want to have different plans, different development plans for each segment. Some companies have a lot more than 9 or 10. Like Facebook has over 50,000 separate customer segments. This is the self-serve, create your own advertising campaign on Facebook, where any person goes in here who wants to advertise on Facebook and can go through steps to build a program that will help him or her acquire new customers. And this is where you're looking for your targets. Your people are here. Okay, audience selection tools. You can see you can target the people by demographics, interests, and behaviors, psychographics, in other words, and find people similar to them. Those are the ways you can choose segments. So segment. Facebook. If there wasn't such a thing as segmentation, there wouldn't be a Facebook, or wouldn't be making any money. The most important segment, of course, is your MVC, most valuable customer. These are the people who spend the most and complain the least. And they love you, love you, love you. I'm going to stop now, then we'll talk about multivariate analysis.